It makes me think of in the front of my Bible, I wrote a statement years and years and years ago, and it was, you can't pray for the Lord to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet.
Yeah. Thinkless. What are we not thinking enough about? Join us as we evaluate our thought life. I'm Parker, and I'm here with my co-host, Amber. Welcome to the show.
All right, Parker, here we sit again at this white table.
Back at it.
With Smiley.
It's one of my favorite sayings.
Yeah.
Back at it.
And we're going to talk about timing.
What about timing, though? Because are like punctuality? Are we on time? Do we care about being on time?
Well, we should.
We should. We should.
Some people don't. Every episode we try to be on time, and I feel like we try. Miss the mark quite often.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a wave.
No,
we're riding it.
I think timing is more like, when is it the right time to speak to your boss? When is it the right time to make a career change? When is it the right time to say that tough thing to a friend? When is it the right time? So you look at timing in life. I think timing's everything.
Yeah.
You'll hear a lot of people say, it's just not the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
How do you know it's the time?
Yeah.
You know, what inside of you is like, now's the time. Now's the time for whatever you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know for a lot of people, it's in their career. When's the right time to pursue your dream? Or when's the right time? We talk about timing a lot.
Yeah.
And what I think is so interesting. Okay. Fun fact. What's the one thing in
life
that we all have the same amount of and can't get any more of, but are capable of losing?
Time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the older that we get, the faster time goes. Right?
Yep.
Is it just me?
And you can waste time.
You can waste a ton of time.
Which I think this little light box here is a time eater. That's what I call it. I'm like, it's the time eater.
It is.
But we all have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So when you measure up successes, this is what I like. When you measure up people and their successes, I'm like, well, they all had the same amount of time. So it's how they appropriated that time that made the difference.
Well, everybody sees their time differently. So like do you see your time? How do you see your time of day? How do you see your week? How do you see your month? How do you see your year? And I would maybe ask you that question, because I know that there are a lot of things that you are evaluating. There's a lot of things we're both obviously navigating, working through, leading through. But of course, as we only have a fixed amount of time, 24 hours in every single day.
Yep.
And I personally see my day kind of in chunks. So I look at my day, and I know for me, like, my most productive time is in the morning. That is when I'm the most focused. That's when I'm the most in it. That's when I'm the most productive. And I know that is the time that I'm able to place the right level of focus in order to be the most productive in whatever it is that I'm trying to be productive. So I get up very, very early, and I spend that solid like 6 a.m. until like 10 a.m. time doing something productive. And then kind of the rest of my day, or kind of that 10 to like 2 p.m. chunk, I see as kind of like, okay, I'm going to be productive, but also relational. And I feel like the rest of the day is purely relational for me. That's just kind of how I see my day, broken up in time chunks. But to answer your question of kind of like, how do you know when it's the right time to make a big decision or make a small decision? And I've seen that when I try to force something or like manufacture, like, okay, now's the time, I've seen that I've operated out of more like impulse rather than getting maybe some wise counsel around me to help walk me through transitions, because transitions take time.
Yeah.
Transitions take time. And sometimes it can feel like, well, is this the right time? Is this not the right time? I've seen that if I just step into it and just start having conversations, rather than making like a hard decision, then sometimes the time can open up rather than like such a close fix of like, it's got to be now or never, rather than being, how can I start kind of having conversations around some of the things that maybe I'm needing to make a decision around, rather than just being like, okay, I'm making this decision, I'm out. Like career move now, career move change now.
Yeah.
Being like, okay, what does this look like? What are the things that I enjoy? How can I maybe process that to take a little bit more time rather than thinking that, okay, the time is either now or never. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I think of the transition that you speak of in timing. I had one of my mentors say to me, I was kind of wrestling with whether I made this career change or not. And I was like, something just doesn't feel right. Like, I feel like I'm transitioning. I feel like I'm not solid here, but I'm not solid there. And I'm not sure, when do I say enough's enough? And when do I, let go? All those things. And again, in my faith, it was like, go back to the last word you remember the Lord speaking to you.
Yeah.
And stay firmly planted in that. And you'll have a wrestling in you when you are transitioning, when change is happening, like there's a movement. So that's that timing, that's that time. But then the word will be given, a direct word. And then you're able to walk it out.
Yeah.
You're able to just go like, and now's right, and follow the peace in that. Yep. There's usually a peace that comes in that. That's how I know. Yeah. That's how I try to find timing. If I don't have peace, but that's my relationship with my faith, right? Like, so if I don't have peace in a decision, if I'm like, I know I should make this decision, like, this is what I'm going to do. A lot of times if I'm bullnosing it like that, more than likely I don't have peace about it. I'm just going to make it happen. Yeah. Because we can make things happen. Like I can make some things happen. Now, whether it's right or wrong is the key.
And it hasn't been good.
And that's right. And so it's like, I want to move in timing with peace.
Yeah.
So I will stay in situations and in hard things longer now than I ever would have younger. Yeah. I mean, like younger, I'd have just been like, boom, drop the mic. I'm out, bro. Like, I'm done. I didn't care. I didn't think of anything else. I wasn't following peace or anything. Where now in my life, I'm a little like, okay, I should probably do something about this situation, but I don't have peace one way or the other. So I'm waiting to find the peace and the right timing to do this. Yeah. So that it is covered by His grace. Yeah. And what I'm going to do. Yeah. So.
Well, it goes back to even what you're saying is like, the timing is more internally driven than it is like externally driven. So with that piece, because I've had a lot of people, I mean, in being a pastor and being the role that I'm in, like people come up like, how do you know when like you want to marry your girlfriend or like ask it's like, well, if you think that you need to have enough money in your bank account, if you think that you need to be secure with a job, if you think that you need to have all of these different external things in place before you like get married, then you're never going to get married. Like, same with kids. Exactly.
Same with career. I'm like, there's so many variables.
There's so many things. Yeah. And so it's like, well, do you want to marry her? Yes. Okay.
Nope. That's a good start.
That's it. Then why don't you ask her dad? Yeah. And if he says no, then maybe that's the door that's shutting that should give you the thought that maybe this isn't the right time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why I'm even thinking like kind of in those conversations, like you're saying peace, and I agree with that. Like, do you have a peace about this? Yeah. But also like maybe who does this potential decision affect? Yeah. And are you having conversations with the people that maybe like are involved with this that kind of could either help open doors or maybe help close doors to kind of give you the security or give you the understanding that, okay, is this a door opening or is this a door closing? And if this is a door closing, then maybe this isn't the right time.
It makes me think of in the front of my Bible, I wrote a statement years and years and years ago. And it was, you can't pray for the Lord to guide your steps if you're not willing to move your feet.
Yeah.
So, all the things that happened in the Bible were with the disciples doing something. the partnership. So timing for me goes again with that partnership. So I can't be like, oh gosh, is it the right timing for me to get another job or a different career or whatever it is? But I'm not looking for one. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not seeking anything. I'm not moving my feet.
Yeah.
Because I believe you will get the doors open, the doors close. That all is part of that process.
Yeah.
You get a stirring inside of you of, I think I'm transitioning.
Yeah.
Something's a little off. Something's a little different. Yeah. Is that you're wanting me to move? Because here's the other thing. When I think of timing, I'll also do this. If I get ahead of myself, one time we were moving from this small town here in Texas, from Montgomery to the Woodlands. Mm-hmm. And I was like, 100% we're supposed to move. We're supposed to do this. It was years and years ago. And I thought we were supposed to move our kids into different schools. I mean, I went and toured schools. I went into everything, our house, our home, our business, everything was moving. And then partway through that, I felt like the Lord say to me, I only ask you to move your business. Mm-hmm. You're moving everything. That's why you're stressed out of your mind right now. That's the all or nothing. I'm going to make it happen. Just everything's going. When it was really just, I only want you to move this part. Yeah. Not all of it, but this part of it. Yeah. And so then I asked, well, obviously in marriage, if you're making a decision like that, it's the two of you. Yeah. So I was like, okay, Lord, if you're speaking this to me and this is really what you're asking on timing wise, that the timing is to actually just move our business and not move our home. You guys say that to my spouse now because we both are on board for moving everything. Yeah. And that night I go home and he's like, I was reading and he was like, hey, I gotta tell you something. And I was like, oh no. And he was like, no, I really need to talk to you. So I was like, okay. And he was worried I was going to be upset. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to say something too now. I don't know what he's going to say, but inside of me, I knew. And he said, hey, I really feel like we're actually not supposed to move our home, just our business. And I was like, peace. Boom. There it is. Yeah. And so that's why I say that it is a timing thing. It is a, sought after thing to say, where can you get wise counsel from? Mm-hmm. Where can you seek? For me, that's in my faith, direction and all of that. But then I'm willing to move my feet some. I started doing some of that. I started checking on schools. Sure. I started looking at houses. And then something was inside of me. There wasn't peace in that, but there was about the business. Yeah. So I started asking questions like, what is this? Yeah. I thought you said. I thought this is what I was supposed to do. I thought this was the right timing. Mm-hmm. So I just encourage people that when you're unsure, move a little bit. Mm-hmm. You got to move to some degree. Yeah. In that movement, like you said, you'll have an open door or a closed door. You'll start getting some direction. Yeah. But don't ask for direction if you're just not willing to move. Yes. So timing, I think, is one of the things that plagues us and gets us so perplexed that we're like, yes, you don't do anything. You don't move. Mm-hmm. You won't take the leap. Yeah. And then there's other times where you just got to just jump. Yeah. The timing is to jump. Yes. You're going to have to jump off and try something. Yes. You know the beauty of that is? Yes. Guess what? You have another decision you can make if you don't like it. Why do we get so stuck up, hung up and stuck in I don't know. Mm. You're like, well, if you don't like it, it's 6 months. Make another decision, whatever it is. Sure. You're never stuck in something.
Well, I think that's
marriage. You are.
Yeah.
Well, let's don't take that for a marriage, but other things, right?
Well, I think that perspective, though, as far as either seeing something as permanent or temporary, is really important. Just when it comes to the timing of something, because even with a career, even with a job change, even with while that can feel permanent, it still can be temporary. Yep. And I think, of course, just culturally speaking, where we are in our culture is, everybody's bouncing around doing a ton of different things. Yeah. Doing multiple things at once. Yeah. And so even, I completely agree with you that you have to do something. You have to take a step of some type. You have to have a conversation. You have to ask a question. Mm-hmm. You have to pursue. You have to learn. Maybe you work a 9 to 5, but you really want to do something, but you're not doing that thing with any extra time that you have. So could you be doing something with the extra time that you have to kind of maybe set you up for even more success in the future whenever you maybe want to step out and do that thing fully? So it's like you do have to do something, but how we see the things, do we see them as, well, this is a permanent decision, or this is maybe a decision for the next year? Like, could I almost kind of put like a boundary of time?
That's what I do
on a decision. And I do the same thing too.
I'm able to say, okay, I see, like, it's interesting you said you saw in blocks, because I see time in blocks like that too. So I'll say, like the show, for example, for this show, you know, it's like, okay, can you do this for this amount of time?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to pull the trigger on timing and the fact that, oh gosh, I don't know if this is the right time to start the show. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but I can commit to this and write it out in this decision for this amount of time.
Yeah.
And then we reevaluate.
Absolutely.
You reevaluate what you want to do, but if you can look at things that you reach out into or think of doing in time blocks like that, then maybe you don't seem as stuck. So that's that temporary permanent thing. If you look at it like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this every day for 365 days a year. I mean, you just can get stuck in that mundane thing, you know, and then you don't want to pull the trigger on the right timing.
Or you want to jump quickly to another thing. Yeah. So it's like, oh, like I jumped and I didn't think it was what it was going to be. And so I want to jump again, you know, rather than.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
And that happens all the time.
You can never get traction doing that.
Yes.
And then you never get comfortable. You never get settled in. And then you don't give it a fair chance to even be something.
Yes.
That's why I see in blocks of time.
Yes.
Because to get traction on something takes time.
It does.
When you hire somebody new, there is a time block that you got to give somebody a grace of.
Yes.
I mean, because everything's new. There's so much. So I've always said there's a window of that 60 to 90 days that shows ability of like, okay, there's enough understanding. There's enough. You can start really seeing somebody's cream starts rising to the crop.
For sure.
The top. Yeah. Right? You know, this could or could not have been a long day, folks. I'm just saying. It's
been a long day, but a good one.
It has been. But you start to see
cream starts rising to the crop.
Yep, and I'm not sure what kind of crop or whatever that is, but yeah, I mean,
no, it's true.
It's just kind of, you know, you just really have to show those grace, and you can't jump too soon.
Yeah.
You can't get out of something too soon when you haven't even given yourself a fair chance.
Yep.
So you can't determine timing on emotions. And when I say peace, I'm not saying an emotion.
Yeah.
Peace to me is it's a knowing. It's like an internal goodness that's there. I don't know how to explain peace to somebody other than what most people. I feel like most people associate peace with happiness.
Yes.
And that's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
I get happy.
Or security.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, this job offers more money. So that's obviously the right time. That's
an answer.
And while sometimes it could be, that doesn't mean that you're like that you will flourish as a human being. So maybe even because I've processed this with several people, even more recently, with like, oh man, like I need to make more money, but I love where I work now, but it just doesn't pay me enough. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you love about where you work?
Yeah.
And what are those things?
Yeah.
And do you think that you will also get those things here, or do you just need to make more money because you want a nicer house, or you want what's the real reason? Do you want to flourish in what you do and they let you off at 4 p.m. and you love that? You love to spend extra time with your family. You're going to be working until 8 p.m. here. Yeah. So it's like, what's the trade-off here? So I feel like all of those factors matter when it comes to like, okay, is this the right time to make? And I know we've kind of been focusing on like a career decision, but even once again, more personally with maybe a relationship, it's like we can once again force things, and we can manufacture things and create things rather than being like, okay, are we having communication about things that we want to do, things that we want to be together? I mean, all of those things. Are we having communication that we both are on the same page, that it could be the right time, rather than how do I feel? Well, I feel this way, so this is the right time because I feel this way.
Have you ever in your marriage and your relationship been like, this is just not the right time to have that conversation?
Yes.
Yeah. And so then there's timing in conversations when you're like, probably shouldn't have that kind of conversation tonight.
So timing and tone matter.
Yeah.
Because I can have the right timing but the wrong tone.
Yes.
I can have the wrong tone and the right timing. So, but if they both have to be in sync.
Yes.
So this happened the other day, where it was a little bit heated of a moment as far as she, was blaming me for something which was not valid, and I. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah, right.
No, but we were having. I wouldn't say. We have never yelled at each other. So it wasn't like an argument where we were yelling, but we for sure were having a disagreement.
Yeah.
And I thought that, well, this is obviously the right time to throw in this as well, which it never is. Can I tell you, anyone listening right now, it never is the right time to stack on things in the heat of a moment. Because the heat of the moment, you are driven by emotion.
Yep.
And so you are seeing things through the filter of your emotion, not through the lens in which they are seeing things. It's just, you're just not. You're just not. So anyway, timing and tone, they matter.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's the reason I asked that question, because timing matters on when you approach your boss, when you approach your spouse, when you approach your kids. I've in raising my kids, like they do something wrong. This is like a huge pet peeve of mine. They do something wrong, and later that afternoon, there's a play date with their friend. So you're like, that's it. You're grounded. You're not going with little Johnny.
Yeah.
Well, it's not little Johnny's fault that you decided to disobey. Your child decided to disobey and do something. Who knows what? Like spill their milk on the carpet or something, whatever. I've said that's not the right timing or the right punishment at this time.
Yeah.
Because it's not Johnny's fault. So we're going to go. So we have a conversation. We're going to go play with Johnny because we committed and said that we would play with Johnny. Mm-hmm. And just because we don't choose the right choices to listen.
I like this. I'm writing this down.
Doesn't matter.
I'm writing this down. That's great.
And then we go to the play date. And then when we come back, now we're going to have to deal with the behaviors.
Yes.
So the timing for those are important.
Yeah.
Because other people are involved in the timing of our decisions and how we handle and what we do.
And the whole time they were thinking about, while they were playing with Johnny.
100%. When they get home,
they're thinking about,
oh no. Actually, they forget when they're with Johnny.
Yeah,
but the minute that car starts pulling back to the house again, they're like, I'm asleep. Yeah. Please don't talk to me.
And the question is, how was your time with Johnny, son?
Yeah, but I just think it's, it's the same with your spouse. If you're out in public and your spouse is, saying or said something to hurt your feelings or whatever, it's not the time to approach that there.
Yeah.
It's, to have the conversation maybe in private on the way home, like, hey, when we were there, this happened, and this is what it made me feel.
Yeah.
There's just the right timing to speak and say things. And I agree, that you shouldn't stack on in the heat of the moment. Forever, you've probably heard this, and most people probably have too, is like, don't go to bed angry. Don't let anger go down, like, don't let the sun go down on your anger, basically. Yeah. Well, from counseling for so long, I sometimes say, I agree you shouldn't, but at the same time, if you are not in a place that you can speak truth in love, you do not need to say it. Yeah. It also says that a harsh word stirs up a harsh word, but that a loving word puts out its wrath.
Yeah.
So if it takes you a sleepover time to find the love again,
take that sleepover,
AKA me sometimes, it's like, take a sleep on it. Right? Wake up the next morning, think about it. And when I can say it from a place of love and not from a place of like burn, it's better.
Yeah.
You know, it's better. Now, you can't go without dealing with it. You've got to address it and be able to say, just like I'm saying with my, you know, my child, like, we're not going to address this, but the timing of when we are going to address this will be this, you know. So you have that in relationships.
I think that's a great, what you just said is great, because you're setting a deadline. So I think for different things that maybe you're evaluating, whether it is a conversation that you need to have with your spouse, or whether it is a conversation you need to have with your boss, or whether it is a career change, or whether it is like, I think even setting a deadline can be some of the most helpful and freeing things where it's like, okay, by this time I will make this decision.
Yep.
And we did that whenever we were moving or processing moving from North Carolina to here in Texas. And we set a deadline. We're like, okay, we're giving ourselves these 3 months to process, to ask ourselves the difficult questions. And we made a decision on that last day of those 3 months. And we brought in the right people. We brought in my boss at the time. And I was terrified. I was like, I mean, I could, if I'm even processing the thought of leaving, I could be fired, or I could be just like, okay, well, we will help you transition now. But we set a time frame on it. So even whenever you're thinking like, okay, well, is this the right time? Could you set a time frame on that time?
Yeah.
Just to be like, all right, I'm giving myself 2 weeks. Or even whenever it comes to like, man, I'm bitter and hurt and I'm frustrated or offended. Well, like, have you set a deadline on that offense? Like, by this time, I will have the conversations that I need to have that will free me from this offense that I'm living in, or the bitterness that I have.
Because the thing about time is, it just keeps running. There is nothing that forces us to have to do things, right? I mean, for the most part. I mean, there is on a baby that's 9 months. That's held in the boundary of time. You know, that is timing.
Yeah.
But it's most things in life, you choose that timing.
Yeah.
And so to put deadlines is key.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll just stay. That's part of moving your feet. You know, you gotta move in the direction that you're considering or not sure of. See what doors open or close. You've got to set a boundary of by this time, and that's the time blocks that we were talking about. That's our kind of boundaries of, okay, I'm going to do it for this amount of time. This is all I can give of that. And then when that's over, we'll reevaluate a new decision. You know, so being able to put the boundaries, being able to put deadlines on the timing. I set a timeline for myself not long ago. So in October, I was like, by January, this is going to happen. Like, I'm giving myself a hard deadline. By January, this is going to happen. January came and it was like I had a whole mind-blowing thing. And I was like, that's one of the only times I can think of that when I set a deadline for myself that I did not stick to it. But that was, again, with my faith. Right? Like, I was seeking it though. Like, this is the amount of time I'm going to give myself to process it, work through it, think about it, really dive into it, and really try to focus on, is this the right thing, and do I have peace to move in it? And at the end of the day, when it came down to it, I did not. I did not. I actually got a revelation for a different way. So in my opinion, it's still a win because the timing was still set. To force me to say, now I can't perpetually stay in it. Right? And so little by little, there has been some hard lines. That's what I always say. There's been a hard line in the sand. Like this and this. There's the line, you know. And the more lines that I draw, the more boundaries that I draw, it makes it clearer and clearer for the timing. In my opinion.
Well, it's important. We've discussed several different things, and I think all things internal timing, external timing, it all matters. And I would just evaluate what how do you feel about this, and having deadlines. And I think some of those, we've talked about some practical things. So it was helpful for me. I know as some things I'm processing too, it was helpful for
same.
me. So I needed to say it and I needed to hear it. So thank you.
Isn't that the truth?
Woo. All right. Cheers.
I liked it. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of THINKLESS. We release an episode every Wednesday morning, so be sure to like, subscribe, share, or leave a review. It would mean so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.